Welcome back to the Hockey Show, and today we are talking about the wild card race in the East and just how nuts it is going on. Now, yesterday I made a video just about the same exact topic and just the chase that's going on here. 3 teams tied, not anymore. 1 team behind by 1 point. The Penguins trying to hang on, and the Islanders sitting pretty, but they have not a lot of time left. So let's talk about the updated version of this yesterday. So yesterday, these 3 teams at the bottom here were tied. The Capitals, the Senators, and the Buffalo Sabres, all with 77 points. And 2 of them played. Capitals and Ottawa played. And Ottawa won, the Capitals lost. So the Capitals gained no points yesterday, staying in the bottom slot of those 3, as well as only having 6 games left. So they have the least amount of games left of those 3 tied teams, and they lose to Tampa Bay 5-1. Not a very good start for them. They still have 6 games left, but it's against the Rangers for 1. So Rangers, that's going to be a tough one coming up next. The Canadiens, that could be a little bit of years of steamroll as the Florida Panthers beat them. We'll talk about them in a second. Florida, another tough one, also playing for their lives. The Islanders playing, well, not playing for their lives per se, but definitely still in the race still. Boston and New Jersey. So the Capitals have a tough hill that they're going to have to climb to make it into the playoffs at this point. So not an easy task for the Capitals, and losing to Tampa Bay, a Rocky team, losing 5-1 I feel like this might be the cementing paste that knocks them out of this that holds them back. Because I don't know if there's any the Capitals, the road that they have left, there's just this injury is it's just a shame. I mean, I'm going to talk about it when the Capitals finally get eliminated, and I'll talk about them and what happened to their season. It is just unfortunate what's happened to them, because if you keep Wilson and Backstrom in this lineup the entire season, John Carlson in the entire season, this team's season is completely flipped on its head. But it's just a shame that 3 of their top guys, $40 million in cap at a 1 point in the season. It's just a shame. You can't have a good team with those type of injuries to your team. 3 out of your top 5 guys injured, 4 of them at 1 point. So it's just a shame. So the Capitals, unfortunate, but they're just kind of out. I think this is kind of the loss that's going to keep them out of it. So unfortunate for the Caps yesterday, losing 5-1. The Sabres did not win, but they get pushed down the totem pole. They were behind the Panthers, but the Ottawa Senators have pushed their way up into the second to out of place. Well, 4th in the running, but 2nd out of the race. So however you want to. Both ways are correct, but it's kind of confusing. But anyways, the Buffalo Sabres, they do have 9 games remaining, though. So they have the most amount of games left out of the entire teams on this list. And they've got 3 more above the Islanders, 2 more above the Penguins, and 3 more again above the Panthers. So they have a pretty good position. If they win those 3 games that they have in hand against a team like the Panthers, or the 2 against the Penguins, I mean, the 2 there, that immediately slides them up into 83 points. They're tied with the Panthers, 1 point behind the Penguins, right? So they have a lot of games left, though, and they're not tough. I mean, they are pretty tough. It is not going to be an easy route either for them. The Rangers, Philadelphia, Florida, Detroit, Carolina. I mean, all these teams, the Rangers 2 times in the last 9 here. Those are going to be hard matchups. Excuse me. The Detroit Red Wings kind of playing for their lives. I mean, a bunch of young guys. They're playing to win. They're in a race of their own. They're not going to make it into the playoffs, but they're still trying to show off that they're pretty good superstars as this young team. So Detroit's going to be hard. Carolina and Florida. Florida playing for their lives as well. Carolina just a top team in the league. Then New Jersey and Ottawa. So you got another top team against another team right below, in front of them, trying to make it into the playoffs as well. So, I mean, no NHL games easy for an NHL team. They're all the best players in the entire world. But all these teams that they're going to be facing, for the most part, 7 out of 9 of them, have a real need to win at this point. So, and the Sabres do too, but they have the games in hand advantage, but they don't have an advantage when it comes to the road they're going to have to take. And the Senators winning yesterday 5-4 against the Philadelphia Flyers. They have 7 games remaining, 4-5-1, so that bumps up their last 10 record above the other ones here, which the Washington Capitals stays 3-4-3. But the Ottawa Senators 4-5-1, so they're almost at 500 in the last 10 games, but they still have a tough route ahead of them. Philadelphia, not a playoff team, pretty abysmal this year. A garbage pile of a franchise at this point. But they have, every team, they have a tough route left. They all seem to be playing the same teams, too, which is kind of bizarre. But Toronto's coming up next. So that's a tough one. Columbus could be a steamroll. Carolina, another top team. Florida, Carolina and Toronto. Toronto not really needing to play for their lives at this point. They're going to end up in front of Tampa Bay and get the home field advantage. But Carolina trying to get that number 1 seed to maybe play a team like the Islanders up here. Florida playing for their lives. Tampa Bay trying to bounce back from what's going on with them. So their bizarre happenings going on lately. Carolina again, so 2 times against Carolina, and then Buffalo to finish off their season in Ottawa. So tough route for them. I would say it's a little bit. No, never mind. To Ottawa, they got a tough route ahead of them too. But this is the real challenge for these teams is if they're worthy of making the playoffs, they will win these games, and that's what Ottawa needs at this point. So if they're worthy of the playoffs, but with an injury to Chychrun, it's going to be a tough battle ahead of them. And even if they made it in, it's going to be I don't even know if they would do well in the playoffs, because whatever one of these teams make it in, they're going to be playing against the Boston Bruins at this point, most likely. The Florida Panthers, so they have 6 games remaining. They have this tied third with the fewest left of them to play, which is not helpful for them. They are on the up, winning their game yesterday against the Montreal Canadiens, the team that they beat like 10-3 the other night. They beat them 5-2, moving them up the rank. Well, not moving them up, but they just go up in points, but they're still behind the Penguins, as the Penguins also won against Nashville yesterday 2-0. So the Panthers, though, their record over the last 10 is looking good, 5-4-1. So their numbers looking good. They're on the plus side by they're doing 60-40 right now, but sort of more like 55-45, sort of technically. Anyways, the Florida Panthers moving up in the standings, 83 points, still 1 point shy of the Penguins. The Penguins have the 1 game in hand, which is a big advantage for them making it into the playoffs, because they have that extra advantage. They have that advantage over the team behind them, which is huge. If you're in front of a guy and you have an advantage over them as well, that you're just solid there, right? So the Panthers are really needing to play for their lives at this point. All these teams are. But Columbus, that's an easy matchup. Buffalo, between the two, they're both playing for, and then Buffalo, and then Ottawa as well, and then Washington. So the Panthers' route for these next, their 4 games after the 3 games after Columbus, they're playing against these teams right below them. Ottawa, Buffalo, and Washington. They're playing these teams that they need to beat to actually make it into the playoffs. And so this is the real pressure test for the Panthers. Are the former President's Trophy winners able to overcome those teams? And if they do, they're going to go on a 4-game winning streak. That'd be huge for them going to the playoffs, feeling that good about themselves, that momentum there. But that is such a pressure test. And the chances of them winning all 4 of those games is pretty slim. And against those, and especially the added fact of them also being in the same hunt as them to make it into the playoffs. And then they don't even get easier after those 3 games, because then they run into Toronto and Carolina as well. So all these teams going into these battles at the end, it is a real interesting matchup, because each of these games you got to watch, because they're going to be the challenge for these teams to make it in. This is the challenge. And moving on to the 2 teams that are secured right now, Penguins, as I said already, win yesterday against the Predators, winning 2-0, the team they picked up Michael Granlund from. Good job for the Penguins. They need to get those wins in. They have the advantage. They don't want to give up that advantage. Once it evens out and it's 6-6 games remaining, both for them, then that's when they can kind of ease off. But a team like Buffalo, who's probably the team who would be not most likely to snag the spot from them, but having 9 games in hand, 2 games above them, that could be a difference maker there, right? Because the 84-77, that is a 7-point differential there. So that takes 4 wins to make that back, right? If they win 4 wins, they have 2 games in hand. The Penguins, obviously, are going to probably most likely lose 2 of their next 7 games. And Buffalo could go on a tear. That 2 games there, the 2 wins, makes sense. they could snag that spot for them. So they got to keep winning as those guys have the advantage over them, and a team's right on their tail with 83 points. So the Penguins, and then once again, they don't have an easy route. Boston ahead of them right now. Philadelphia, doesn't matter what position those two teams are in, they're going to play to kill each other anyways. New Jersey, another playoff team that's being killer and playing for, jockeying for position in their division. Minnesota, another team jockeying for position. And definitely don't want to play the Avalanche. If they end up in second or third place at this point, they could play the Avs. So you definitely don't want that for the Minnesota Wild. Detroit, that can kind of be easy. And then Chicago and Columbus. So the Penguins, the next 4 games for them is a tough one. Nashville as well, because they're seeking a playoff spot. So the next 4 games, I mean, they knocked out 1 2-0, but it's a completely different challenge with Boston, New Jersey, and Minnesota. And then Philadelphia, just because they're the blood rivalry there. So those 4 games, not going to be easy for the Penguins to hang on to that spot. But then they kind of end off the season easy with 3 games that that they are better teams than them. So they are a better team than those 3, so they can easily wipe those guys out as long as they are a competent team. So they have a pretty interesting route to make it in the playoffs as well. I mean, you got to think that they're going to at least get 1 win out of those 4 matchups coming up, especially against Philadelphia. And if they can get a win against a team like Minnesota, I think they would be pretty solid. I think as long as they get 2 out of the next 4, I think with those 3 games remaining after that, they're going to be in a pretty solid spot to keep it in the playoffs. And then the Islanders. At this point, the Islanders, in my eyes, I think are pretty solid. There's no way, in my eyes, that 2 of the teams are not going to knock them out. Maybe, let's just say somehow Florida, with their 6 games as well as them have left, they could somehow, I mean, they're only 4 points behind, so they get the 2 wins. Let's say the Islanders lose 2 in a row. The Panthers go up here and they knock out the Penguins, and the Islanders are in the second wild card spot, right? So even then, I don't think these teams below them, like Ottawa, who's 9 points behind them. 8 points. I'm so stupid. And then the teams below them with 10 points. There's just no way with 9 games left, 5 wins and 3 losses. That's already a tough battle. And the Islanders have to lose all of theirs to make that happen. So the Islanders are pretty safe. But at this point, they are playing not to play against the Bruins. Because that second wild card spot, the Bruins have already solidified that they're going to be playing that second team. And the Islanders don't want to do that. If there is a team, the Islanders are built for the playoffs, right? With Sorokin in that, their defense, they are a playoff-built team. They're not a regular season team. They're not built to do 82 games and be 7-0 wins, right? They're built for 2-0 wins. They're built for 1-0 wins. And they added Bo Horvat, which is a huge thing because I do think goal scoring is their main concern. And in the playoffs, they do have that added fact now. And against the Bruins, it would be such a hard pressure test, being the first time they made it in the playoffs over, I think, that since in 2 years. So the Islanders playing to not play against the Boston Bruins, because I think if they go in there and they could play a team like Carolina, let's say, or even New Jersey, I like the Islanders' odds. They're a very shut-down team, and I think with Sorokin in net, they could easily shut down the offense, liability of the Carolina Hurricanes with Sorokin in net, and they can pot a couple more in their net and maybe get those 3-2 wins. And a team against the Devils, who are kind of falling off the edge towards the end here, I think the Islanders could snag a win over Hurricanes or the Hurricanes or the Devils. Maybe the second round against, if they play the other team, if they play against the Devils in the second round, if they beat the Rangers, they could withstand that. And by that point, they're going to be a solid team making it to the conference finals. If they play Boston, then at least they went on a deep playoff run if they lose. But at that point, they might be such a good team after getting all those wins, they might have a chance. So playing not to play Boston. But that is all I have to say. Pretty much my prediction still is, I think I've always bet against the Penguins over the last 3-4 years now, and I finally have ended my my tyranny against them. I think the Penguins are going to keep that spot. I just have a feeling, and now that I say that, and after I finally have agreed with the Penguins, they're going to lose it. So that's just the way it is. So truly, it's probably going to end up Panthers and Islanders. And you know what's going to happen? I bet the Panthers go on a crazy tear, and they end up in the first wild card spot, and the Islanders play the Bruins in the first round. So that is my prediction there. So thank you for watching this. If you somehow enjoyed, please feel free to pick up your free subscription down below by hitting that red subscribe button. And you might as well leave a like, not a dislike, but you can go down below to the comment section and tell me who you think is going to make it to the finals. And until next time, I have been your hangman-dressed host, Owen. Too sweet, and ta-ta for now.